Hello, everybody, and welcome into Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Before we dive in, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of San Lorenzo Gold Corp, a gold and copper company focused on advancing its flagship Salvadora property located in Chile's mega porphyry belt. It's Al Kroontje. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, great to have you here. Before we dive into the company and everything that's going on at your flagship project, I want to kick things off with discussing the gold and copper sectors and get your view on the macro here. So I'm wondering, firstly, when it comes to gold, what are the main tailwinds and macro factors you're currently watching that you see driving the gold market? And what inning do you think we're in when it comes to this gold bull market?
Wow, isn't that a great question? Well, let's look historically for just a quick second. Was it 2000 and then to 2023, we saw a run-up of price kind of into that $1,800 an ounce range. It bounced up and down a little bit there. But then the real takeoff was kind of in the middle of 2023, where it went from that 18 to 2000 range all the way up to where we are now. We call it 3,300. So, these bull market cycles tend to be 10 years or more oftentimes. So you ask, where are we in the game? Well, if you include the increase since 2020, then I guess 5 years, so maybe halfway into it. But one might argue as well that the real commencement was more like in the middle of 2023, so we're a couple of years into it. So maybe in that basis, maybe we're in the second, third inning. It's possible, however, that maybe it's not really best to look at it as a 9-inning game right now. It could be longer than that, which is kind of a funny way to look at it. But there's so many macro and so many trend changes that have happened recently that this could be more and longer than maybe people realize.
Well, one of the main themes central to the gold market these days has obviously been central bank gold buying, which seems to be continuing. They've been buying gold at a pace exceeding 1,000 tons annually for the past 3 years. To give some context, the decade prior, the average was 400 to 500 tons. How much of a factor does this play in the gold price in your view? And if we were to look out 3 to 5 years, do you think we'll see more or less buying from central banks?
The first part of your question, central bank buying, is very important. So I alluded earlier, however, to big macro shifts. So a big component, of course, is the central bank buying. But then there are other shifts as well, where individual investors and funds are realizing that a certain amount of gold would be important to their portfolio performance, such that ETFs have really come onto the market, and actually the ownership of physical bullion, not to mention the interest in mining stocks themselves. So gold is certainly enjoying a robust time. But then we talk about that macro change. Well, okay, sure. Central banks are buying. Well, we've all seen the tariff announcements that change quite regularly, but if you're a country like China or Russia, or perhaps numerous of them that have been the subject of tariff saber rattling, it's not hard to maybe conjecture that some of these people are a little put off. And are they looking to increase U.S. dollars as a portion of their holdings? Or keep in mind that U.S. dollars in banks can be seized. It's not unreasonable to see central banks just wanting to continue to de-dollarize and increase their exposure to gold. And then, if you expand that, if you look at the debt levels and the spending that's going on all around the world, we all know about situations like families that have trouble making ends meet and their credit card bills get a little too high and you got to try to make the minimum payment. Well, we seem to be getting to a point, like, for instance, in the U.S., where you have to issue new money to pay your existing obligations. Those things are okay until you get too close to the spiral, that sucking everything in. And if you ever got to a place where people think that it's really out of control, then my goodness, what would happen to gold prices? Well, then I guess you would use that phrase in the quotations, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. So do I think it's going to continue? I definitely do. Keep in mind that also that in the resource sector, and I guess especially in the junior mining sector that I'm involved in, you have to be an optimist. And I am. And I'm especially optimistic about gold prices going forward and possibly for longer than many might think because of the factors that we just finished talking about.
Yeah, very well said. I agree with everything you've laid out there. I want to shift to copper for a moment here because it recently hit new all-time highs. This was in the aftermath of tariff announcements. The Trump administration was going to put a 50% tariff on copper. Now we've seen it drop today. I think it's around $4.30 as we speak. What are your thoughts on this recent price action? Obviously, the tariffs aren't playing out exactly how people expected or the market expected. I want to read a quote here from Reuters. It says, Trump said on Wednesday the United States would impose a 50% tariff on copper pipes and wiring, but the levy fell short of the sweeping restrictions expected and left out copper ore, concentrates, and cathodes. Obviously, this is the likely reason for the drop in copper prices today, although it should be noted a lot of the copper equities are actually up, which is rather interesting. What are your thoughts on this recent price action and this tariff fiasco when it comes to copper?
In simple terms, I think there was a buildup of inventory of copper in advance of the tariffs. And then when things change a little bit, the markets do tend to overreact. And I'm going to suggest to you for a minute that they may have overreacted this morning. Except I would also point out all it really did was come back to kind of a level-ish, within 30 cents or so of where it was before this rumor of tariffs and this uncertainty came about. So the copper price is very robust at this, $4.25 to $4.40 range, which seems to be bouncing in here today. But let's again look at the macro for copper. But really, everybody says it, but let's just repeat it here. The world is going greener. It's going to take a lot more copper, whether that be for vehicles or for power systems or all of those reasons, as well as just the whole data and artificial intelligence demands that connect people and they use copper. So the demand side of copper is very robust. And so that hasn't changed just because of a change in a tariff announcement. I'd like to expand and say about the tariff announcement, sure, there was an expectation of imports of the raw material might be subject to tariffs as well, but that's just not really logical when you think about it. Mr. Trump is clearly trying to repatriate manufacturing and industrialization to the United States to the extent possible. But now the extent possible is kind of the important thing there. Yes, the U.S. has reserves of copper, but certainly not sufficient to meet its own demand. Not to mention that they're going to need a lot more smelters to satisfy the production of the raw material. Now, I will give the administration kudos because they seem very bent on reducing permitting hassles and speeding up the timelines for those. So those bode well for being able to manufacture raw copper. But it's still a long process. We're not talking a year or two. We're talking a decade process. So, yes, it was natural that copper, the raw ingredient, would be exempted, and that really it's the tariffs being placed on, like you said, tubular project or products or wire or all that stuff. So, yeah, no, the long-term prognosis for copper is very strong.
Well, let's discuss how San Lorenzo fits into the picture. Could you start by giving us an overview of the company?
It's reasonably easy, actually, and fitting right into our earlier conversation. San Lorenzo is a gold and copper company. It's domiciled in Chile. Our head office is in Calgary. And we have a spectacular flagship property called Salvadora, which is located in the mega porphyry belt in Chile. We have a market cap of about $17 million as we sit here today, which is calculated by about 80 million shares outstanding at a price of 22 or 23 cents. And I'm sure I'll slip up and say it's vastly undervalued, but that's just the simple facts.
Well, let's hone in a little bit more on the Salvadora property, your flagship project. Could you walk us through the details of that project, the progress you've made there so far, and also your plans for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So Salvador is about 9,000 hectares, so about 90 kilometers, I'm sorry. What's interesting about it, though, is that we've done 5 phases of drilling and numerous phases of geochem and geophysics on the property. And every time we drill, we find something. And what I think investors don't realize is what we have. And what do I mean by that? We have intersects along our Arco de Oro trend for over a kilometer now with some really nice high-grade intercepts. Then we also have a couple of discovery holes into porphyry systems, one on our Caballo Muerto project, and then most recently on our Cerro Blanco project, which we just got underway with because of a road access issue that we solved in the middle of last year. We drilled 3 holes into that system, which were quite wide-spaced reconnaissance recce holes, I guess you'd call them, and they all worked. And they were based on IP signatures, induced polarity, together with surface geochem that we've been doing over the last 4 years over that land. So we're much further along than just some brownstone company that is arm waving and saying, yeah, we might have this, we might have that. The facts are we do. And we are still unrecognized, I think, for what we do or what we have. But I also think that come this next drilling program, which we're about to embark on, people will really understand what we have there.
Well, last month you completed an expanded IP geophysical survey at the Salvadora property in preparation for this drill program. Could you fill us in on those details and on a timeline? When are you planning to start that drill program?
I'm glad you asked that. We've got the IP back about a month ago, and I can say that the IP targets are exciting. We will be issuing a press release on the Tuesday after the August long weekend here in Canada. So Tuesday, August 5th, with some of those IP results that stakeholders, investors can actually look at and see what our logic is on where we're going to drill. Those anomalies are not limited to just Cerro Blanco, but also to Arco de Oro and a northwest extension that we shot some IP on as well. Right after finishing the IP and getting those results, we embarked on a 30-day surface sampling geochem program at the Arco de Oro target. And the only thing holding us back on finishing the determination of hole locations is interpreting that. And we don't quite have those assays back. We expect them very imminently. And I'm talking days, not many weeks. So we have finalized a minimum of 3 holes to be drilled at Cerro Blanco on what we believe to be outstanding IP targets. But I think that investors have to know that the first 3 holes that we drilled at Cerro Blanco were based on IP targets as well. And one of those lines is a simple extension of an IP line extension to where we have already drilled. And there's a pretty outstanding anomaly sitting there that we think needs to be drilled and is going to be very exciting as we embark on it. And then there's another anomaly that we were kind of aware of before, but we had a break in one of our IP lines because of terrain that we were able to fill in and then also shoot another line to the south of, and it appears on both of those lines. That's an anomaly to the east. So that one is a compelling target, and I think that this drilling program at Cerro Blanco is going to be super, super interesting. You asked when we're going to start. We intend to start during the month of August, with the caveat on those results from Arco de Oro and our surface sampling. But we truly believe that those will be back soon. We've already formalized 4 or 5 locations at Arco de Oro. We just want to make sure we're getting it right with all the data that we possibly can. But at Arco de Oro, every time we drill, we intersect these great intercepts. And so far, we confirmed about 1 kilometer of strike out of in excess of 5 kilometers of strike that we see from surface workings and from IP that we've now run. So it's an exciting target. I would point out that even although these are not 43101 numbers, we have a core zone in that 1 kilometer that if we just take the core zone, even though it's quite a bit wider than that, the 2.5 meters of that down to 300 meters over a kilometer averages over 17 grams per ton. In other words, it averages over half an ounce. And just that inherent gold is over 1 million ounces right there. But I repeat, that's not a 43101 compliant number. We would have to drill more density, closer spacing. And we're still on the extension of the feature, proving up more strike length. Although part of our upcoming drilling program is to confirm with closer in drilling to this most recent hole that we drilled, 1 of 25, to confirm additional intercepts so that we get greater confidence. So we're super excited about this drilling program coming up and pretty confident that people will be very gratified by what we're doing there.
Great. Could you shed some light on Chile as a jurisdiction and the specific area that you're operating in? I'm very curious to know your relationship with the local government and community, and are they supportive of projects like yours there?
Well, to answer that question, we have to remember that Chile provides the world with a higher percentage of its copper than OPEC does of oil. Chile provides approximately 1/3 of the world's copper. Chile is very, very supportive of mining in the mining jurisdictions of regions 1, 2, and 3. And that's principally because it's very sparsely populated. Where we're working, it's very sparsely populated. But Chile is very endowed with riches, mineral riches, and that's gold and copper. So you may recall that the current administration, led by President Boric, undertook a referendum a couple of years ago to change the mining laws, essentially changing the royalty rates and things such as that. But the referendum was defeated on a basis of 2-1. 66 2/3 roughly voted against that change. And that the result of that is that Chile has again become possibly one of the most favored mining jurisdictions in the world. I always feel very safe there. I think it's very straightforward doing business there. You asked about our relationship with indigenous communities, for instance. There really aren't any where we are working, so we're at a low altitude as well, about 1,800 to 2,250 meters of elevation. So we're not subject to year-round changes it's always the same there. Sometimes some people say it hasn't rained there in 100 years. So we feel like we're operating in a wonderful jurisdiction that wants us there and is supportive of mining.
Well, talk to us about the team behind San Lorenzo Gold and how you plan to leverage their expertise to advance your projects, and maybe start with yourself and how you came to become CEO of the company.
Well, I think it would be more appropriate to start with the team in Chile. The team in Chile is led by a very seasoned geologist. His name's Terry Walker, who has been in Chile for 28 years now. And he's very familiar with the system. He's looked at a lot of plays, and he married a Chilean when he a Chilean woman when he moved there, and is very entrenched with family there. He leads a team there comprised of himself and some field geologists and a land administrator that really know what they're doing. And it's no secret to anybody that if you're going to operate in a foreign jurisdiction, you better have in-country expertise. So this company is really came to be because of that team in Chile, located in La Serena, a town in Chile. And Terry's track record of drilling is just outstanding, which is kind of one of the reasons that I feel so confident about our upcoming drilling program. As for the rest of the team, we really only have myself and a consulting CFO here in Canada. We're very lean and mean. Our money goes into the ground. So, we're very excited about what we have there. That it's just a spectacular property that we have the means to, we can actually execute. We have a good relationship with the local people, with Cernacumen, the local mining regulator. There's really no barriers for us to execute on our exploration strategy. And I'd really like to point out that we're not arm-waving promoters. That's a bad way to say that, I guess, but we rely on our results. So, we are ready to live and die on the results sword, and we look forward to this drilling program so much. The indicators for it are significant, and there will be a time that our stock will be re-rated from a $17 million market cap to something quite dramatically different than that, in my opinion.
So obviously the drill program coming up is the biggest catalyst that people can look forward to when it comes to the shareholders of the company. I wonder what other catalysts that you think could provide that re-rating of the stock that you were mentioning that come to mind, and also what is the end goal for the company? Is it to establish a compelling resource and then get taken out by a larger mining company to take it into production? Do you plan to take parts of it or all of it into production yourselves? What's the goal there?
That's a great question, and there's more than one question there, so let me try to tackle it in pieces. You're right that the drilling program is the major catalyst coming forward, but why? I think that people don't realize yet that maybe we have a couple discovery holes, one at Caballo Muerto and one at Cerro Blanco. But we also have the makings of a resource at Arco de Oro. We just keep drilling spectacular intercepts on a swarming vein system that has about 5 kilometers of strike. And we've done only 5 holes so far over about a kilometer of that. So, yeah, we think that maybe people don't understand what we have. And once they do, that would be a catalyst for a re-rate, because I'm not going to suggest that Arco de Oro could be a bulk mineable target, but we do have a couple of models that say if we extended our strike to a reasonable drilling density within about 150 meters of each direction of 1 at 25, the numbers become quite significant about how much gold there would be there bulk mineable. That in and of itself would re-rate the stock to multiples, many multiples of where it is. We're not suggesting that in our opinion, is still an underground mining situation. But don't forget that we have many intercepts of over 2 ounces and lots of intercepts of half-ounce gold. So you're asking, really, what is the next step? Well, I can tell you that there's no shortage of interest from larger players. Now, having said that, we made a decision here after our drilling program that finished in January that we needed to do one more drilling program to really get awareness going. And that's what we're doing. So, you know the old saying, you got to make a decision. It might be the right one, might be the wrong one, but we made one. And we're committed to do this drilling program, 2,000 to 2,500 meters, which is admittedly not that much, but we need to get the story out and make people understand why $17 million market cap just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to go and speculate on the end game at this point. I said that other people are interested. They are, but it's just a little bit too early for me to speculate on that today.
Well, Al, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm going to put a link in the description below to the San Lorenzo Gold website as well as social media for people who want to follow along with the company. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. I would just point out that my email is always open to people who want to send me a note, and I try to respond to everybody. Sometimes that's difficult, but I will try.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.